Hello students, welcome to the lecture on corporate governance, and after this lecture we will be able to learn the following objectives. Understand Board of Directors, understand Chief Executive Officer's CEO, understand corporate planning staff, understand consultants, explain board committees, understand importance of corporate governance, explain the approaches to managing a company's ethical conduct. Let us begin with a brief introduction. Corporate governance refers to the set of systems, principles, and processes by which a company is governed. They provide the guidelines as to how the company can be directed or controlled such that it can fulfill its goals and objectives in a manner that adds to the value of the company and is also beneficial for all stakeholders in the long term. Stakeholders in this case would include everyone ranging from the board of directors, management, shareholders to customers, employees and society. The management of the company hence assumes the role of a trustee for all the others.
Hello questions master. I am studying the corporate strategy and I would like to know what is corporate governance?
Hello Laura. Corporate governance refers to the set of systems, principles and processes by which a company is governed. They provide the guidelines as to how the company can be directed or controlled such that it can fulfill its goals and objectives in a manner that adds to the value of the company and is also beneficial for all stakeholders in the long term. Stakeholders in this case would include everyone ranging from the board of directors, management, shareholders to customers, employees and society. The management of the company hence assumes the role of a trustee for all the others.
What are the principles underlying corporate governance?
Corporate governance is based on principles such as conducting the business with all integrity and fairness, being transparent with regard to all transactions, making all the necessary disclosures and decisions, complying with all the laws of the land, accountability and responsibility towards the stakeholders and commitment to conducting business in an ethical manner. Another point which matters is the need for those in control to be able to distinguish between what are personal and corporate funds while managing a company.
Why is corporate governance important?
Fundamentally, there is a level of confidence that is associated with a company that is known to have good corporate governance. The presence of an active group of independent directors on the board contributes a great deal towards ensuring confidence in the market. Corporate governance is known to be one of the criteria that foreign institutional investors are increasingly depending on when deciding on which companies to invest in. It is also known to have a positive influence on the share price of the company. Having a clean image on the corporate governance front could also make it easier for companies to source capital at more reasonable costs. Unfortunately, corporate governance often becomes the center of discussion only after the exposure of large scams.
Why should the public be interested in corporate governance?
There has been renewed interest in the corporate governance practices of modern corporations since 2001, particularly due to the high-profile collapses of a number of large corporations, most of which involved accounting fraud. Corporate scandals of various forms have maintained public and political interest in the regulation of corporate governance. In the US, these include Enron Corporation and Mackay Incorporated, formerly WorldCom. Their demise is associated with the US federal government passing the Sarbanes-Oxley Act in 2002, intending to restore public confidence in corporate governance. Similar corporate failures in other countries stimulated increased regulatory interest.
Are corporate management and corporate governance different?
Governance has little to do with management, and this often comes as a surprise to directors. It is not a hands-on activity that can be learned then put into action easily. It is a whole board activity and not something that can be delegated to the company secretary or the chairperson only. Whilst management operates within a hierarchy of delegated responsibility and authority, the members of a board are all jointly and individually responsible with equal rights and duties. The practice of governing is certainly different from managing. It is not about managing companies but ensuring they are well run. It is less about doing and taking action than reflecting and learning. The key principles are that of prudence, acting in good faith, stewardship, duty, openness, transparency and integrity. These are the real building blocks of excellence in corporate governance and the binding actions for an effective board.
So if management is about running the business, corporate governance is about seeing that it is run properly. All companies need managing and governing. Is this right?
Absolutely.
What is the relationship between management, governance and strategy?
This is a question Northwoods and the group will have to answer.
Thank you, Questions Master.
You're welcome, Laura.
Now class, that you know what corporate governance is, what other important issues should I look at to understand the corporate governance's role in the strategic decision-making in each corporation?
The definition of corporate governance most widely used is the system by which companies are directed and controlled. More specifically, it is the framework by which the various stakeholder interests are balanced. The relationships among the management, board of directors, controlling shareholders, minority shareholders and other stakeholders. The corporate governance framework consists of explicit and implicit contracts between the company and the stakeholders for distribution of responsibilities, rights and rewards. Procedures for reconciling the sometimes conflicting interests of stakeholders in accordance with their duties, privileges and roles, and procedures for proper supervision, control and information flows to serve as a system of checks and balances. Do you know what is meant by the term board of directors? A company's board of directors provides the company with direction and advice. It is the responsibility of the board of directors to ensure that the company fulfills its mission statement. In doing so, the board of directors frequently sets the company's overall policy objectives. For these reasons, a good board of directors includes knowledgeable and experienced business people. Typically, only one member of the board of directors is involved with the day-to-day activities of the company. This person is the Chief Executive Officer, CEO, and he or she acts as a liaison between the board of directors and the rest of the company. The CEO is responsible for communicating to the board of directors the daily status of the company and for communicating and implementing the vision and policy objectives of the board of directors. A well-functioning board of directors acts as a top-level advisor to the company. The entrepreneurs who start a company usually provide the initial vision and mission statement, and the role of the board of directors is to give advice on how to best implement this vision. A good board of directors will also let the company know when it is drifting away from its goals and objectives. It is becoming the trend for the board of directors to be held fiscally responsible for the performance of the company. It is still rare for members of the board of directors to be sued because of something the company has or hasn't done, but it can happen, and damages have been awarded against the members of the board of directors. Board of directors members who have allowed a company to drift into bankruptcy have also been sued by the shareholders for negligence. Now moving on to the next topic, Chief Executive Officers, CEO. The highest ranking executive in a company whose main responsibilities include developing and implementing high-level strategies, making major corporate decisions, managing the overall operations and resources of a company, and acting as the main point of communication between the board of directors and the corporate operations. The CEO will often have a position on the board and in some cases is even the chair. There are various other titles for the position of CEO, including President and Executive or Managing Director. The role of the CEO will vary from one company to another depending on its size and organization. In smaller companies, the CEO will often have a much more hands-on role in the company, making a lot of the business decisions, even lower level ones such as the hiring of the staff. However, in larger companies, the CEO will often lead with only the higher level strategy of the company and directing its overall growth, with most other tasks delegated to managers and departments.
Hey Wayne, tell me more about corporate governance. I hunger for knowledge.
Hello Daisy Sue, did you see my curling lecture last night? Fascinating stuff. Curling is thought to have been invented in medieval Scotland in 1541.
Hey Wayne, you hit another brain freeze. Whatever, my name is Annette, not Daisy Sue. I heard only one student attended your curling lecture.
Sorry Daisy Sue. I had one student attend my curling lecture, that is the good news. The bad news is that he left after finding out I was not his calculus teacher. Despite the loss of my audience, I continued to lecture. What can I tell you about corporate governance? Corporate governance is the framework of rules and practices by which a board of directors along with the state ensures accountability, fairness, and transparency in the firm's relationship with its stakeholders including shareholders, customers, management, employees, government, and the community. This framework consists of 1. Explicit and implicit contracts between the firm and the stakeholders, 2. Procedures for reconciling the sometimes conflicting interests of stakeholders, and 3. Procedures for a proper system of checks and balances in the corporation. In sum, it's how a corporation along with the state internally chooses to run itself.
Do you have Mr. Corporate Governance pants like the Mr. Capital Structure pants?
No, corporate governance is too complex to be explained using a pair of pants. Corporate governance can be spellbinding, it is a multifaceted subject. For example, one important theme of corporate governance is to ensure the accountability of certain individuals in an organization through mechanisms that try to reduce or eliminate the principal agent problem. Daisy Sue, do you remember discussing the principal agent problem? A related theme is whether a corporate governance system can increase or decrease the stock returns to shareholders. There are other aspects to the corporate governance question, such as the stakeholder view and other corporate governance models around the world. We will be examining these topics in more detail this week.
I can't wait to study more about corporate governance. I hunger for more knowledge each day.
Yes, the study of corporate governance can take your breath away. At times I hyperventilate when lecturing on corporate governance. See you in class.
Top executive responsible for a firm's overall operations and performance. He or she is the leader of the firm, serves as the main link between the board of directors, the board, and the firm's various parts or levels, and is held solely responsible for the firm's success or failure. One of the major duties of a CEO is to maintain and implement corporate policy as established by the board. Also called President or Managing Director, he or she may also be the chairman or chairperson of the board. The CEO has overall responsibility for creating, planning, implementing, and integrating the strategic direction of an organization. This includes responsibility for all components and departments of a business. The CEO makes certain that the organization's leadership maintains constant awareness of both the external and internal competitive landscape, opportunities for expansion, customers, markets, new industry developments and standards, and so forth. The CEO generally reports to a board of directors. The CEO serves at the discretion of the board of directors. If the CEO is also the company founder and or chief stockholder and owner, the board of directors is largely an advisory role. Let us know who comprises of corporate planning staff and how important are they of a business. The Corporate Planning and Policy Development Department plays an important role in providing proactive research into issues aimed at improving the effectiveness and overall efficiency of the corporation. The staff of this department provides consultative services on a variety of city topics and ensures consistency in the management procedures and policies of the corporation. They also carry out research, analysis and revisions on various reports, studies and policies, and sit on several committees in order to give strategic advice to City Council, the City Manager and the Strategic Management Group. Services offered. The Corporate Planning and Policy Development Department provides the following services for the City of Moncton. Corporate Consulting. The department offers consulting and facilitating services, support and guidance to city staff members for a variety of projects, procedures and management practices. These include research and creation of corporate positions through special studies, briefs and position papers on issues that impact on the corporation generally. Strategic Planning. Staff of the Corporate Planning and Policy Development Department coordinated the creation of Moncton's Strategic Plan, Vision 2020. Staffs are responsible for tracking the implementation of the action initiatives outlined in the strategic plan. Participation in various committees. The department provides guidance, service and support to committees of council, including the Legal and Administrative Affairs and the Mayor's Seniors Advisory Committees. Ad hoc committees. Corporate Planning and Policy Development serves as a link between the City of Moncton and its citizens in coordinating the activities of ad hoc committees such as the Citizen Water Quality Committee and the Citizen Ward Boundary Realignment Committee. They also assist in compiling the final reports for these and other ad hoc committees. Policies. The Corporate Planning and Policy Development Department is responsible for researching, drafting and revising internal and external policies for the City of Moncton. Now moving on to our next topic, consultants. Let's talk about how you could become a consultant. Consultants are independent contractors who are paid hourly, per day or per project. When you think of consultants, you may think of seasoned PhDs billing hundreds of dollars per hour. Yes, there are many consultants who fall into this group. However, what you may not know is that there are thousands of consultants who are just regular people. Some of them may even be stay-at-home parents, artists, or other people you might not see as suits. Remember, in order to become a consultant, you don't have to be the world's foremost expert. You simply need to know more than your client knows. That way, you're offering your client your expertise and knowledge, which he or she compensates you for in the form of a high hourly rate. A consultant is an experienced individual that is trained to analyze and advise a client in order to help the client make the best possible choices. A strategic consultant may evaluate a business plan and help the client develop a plan to meet those strategic goals. For example, a client concerned with government regulations and risk mitigation may engage a discovery or regulatory compliance consultant. As another example, value-added resellers, VARs, may employ sales consultants to examine the client's immediate business or technology needs and recommend products, services, or other solutions that can address those needs. Experienced professional who provides expert knowledge, often packaged under a catchy name, for a fee. He or she works in an advisory capacity only and is usually not accountable for the outcome of a consulting exercise. Some consultants have brought dramatic shifts in management thinking and improvements in the performance of organizations. Moving on to our next topic, board committees. Each committee has its own terms of reference. The Audit Committee and the Risk Management Committee are responsible for the establishment and operation of a risk management system, including reviewing the adequacy of risk management practices for the material risks of the bank, such as credit, market, liquidity, legal, compliance, regulatory and operational risks. The board and each committee have the power to appoint any independent legal, financial or other advisors as they deem necessary. There could be so many committees, but to name some are Audit Committee, Remuneration Committee, Appointments Committee, Strategy and Development Committee. Now let us understand why corporate governance is so important to a business. The need, significance or importance of corporate governance is listed below. Changing ownership structure. In recent years, the ownership structure of companies has changed a lot. Public financial institutions, mutual funds, etc. are the single largest shareholder in most of the large companies. So they have effective control on the management of the companies. They force the management to use corporate governance. Importance of social responsibility. Today, social responsibility is given a lot of importance. The board of directors has to protect the rights of the customers, employees, shareholders, suppliers, local communities, etc. This is possible only if they use corporate governance. Growing number of scams. In recent years, many scams, frauds and corrupt practices have taken place. Misuse and misappropriation of public money are happening every day in India and worldwide. Indifference on the part of shareholders. In general, shareholders are inactive in the management of their companies. They only attend the annual general meeting. Postal ballot is still absent in India. Proxies are not allowed to speak in the meetings. Shareholders' associations are not strong. Globalization. Today, most big companies are selling their goods in the global market, so they have to attract foreign investor and foreign customers. They also have to follow foreign rules and regulations. Takeovers and mergers. Today, there are many takeovers and mergers in the business world. Corporate governance is required to protect the interest of all the parties during takeovers and mergers. SEBI. SEBI has made corporate governance compulsory for certain companies. This is done to protect the interest of the investors and other stakeholders. Let's move on to our next topic. Ethics in a business sense is defined by examining ethical principles and moral or ethical problems that arise in a business environment. It applies to all aspects of business conduct and is relevant to the conduct of individuals and business organizations as a whole. Having an ethical business or organization has become less of a moral choice and more of a standard practice. So when operating a company, today it is important to plan how one's business will approach ethical conduct. The idea in a nutshell. It may seem simple to say that every business should be ethical, but it simply is not as easy as that. It is important to plan one's approach towards ethical conduct for many reasons. The degree to which a company's focus towards ethics can vary, and factors may include the size of the company, likelihood of fines due to poor ethical choices, and amount of money available to be allocated towards ethics training, etc. A company's approach towards its ethics can possibly be cost efficient in the long run, but also costly in the short run. There are there are 10 approaches to managing a company's ethical conduct. Poor ethical choices can possibly ruin an entire business or corporation and affect large groups of people. The most popular example of this is Enron's completely unethical choices that were made, which in turn has made Enron's name synonymous with fraud and unethical behavior. Even though this is an extreme case, it is important to understand that unethical behavior can have extreme consequences. The unconcerned or non-issue approach. Managers using this approach feel that they are only required to comply with what is legally required of them. They feel that it is a waste to spend money or time on establishing ethical standards or ethical training. The damage control approach. This approach tries to prevent any scandals or controversy by hiding behind a code of ethics. Managers using this approach may not be afraid to bend the rules and perform some unethical behavior as long as the public views them as an ethically strong company. The compliance approach. This approach is ethically driven, and managers make sure to have a clear and complete code of ethics and ethics training. Managers try to avoid any immoral situation and unethical behavior is punished. This approach has its employees just following the rules or ethical standards that are set forth by managers, so they may make some unethical choices if they can find a loophole. The ethical culture approach. This approach has ethics as one of the company's main focus. The company will ingrain their ethical culture to the employee until they don't just follow a code of ethics but embrace it. This does require a rigorous and costly ethics training program, but most importantly, all of the top managers must live by the company's ethical standards and believe them. It is important to create a very clear and thorough code of ethics. But it is more than having a code of ethics just to say a company has one. The company needs to take the time to create one that they truly believe in and be sincere. It should also be referred to when making decisions and be well known to all employees. Managers should know that there are always ways to improve the ethical culture of their company. Managers can start by hiring employees that have higher ethical values and provide ethics training. Hiring more ethical employees can possibly change the trend of a company, while ethics training can better educate their current employees or at least let them know that unethical behavior will not be tolerated. Managers in any approach to ethics, whether it is weak or strong, should practice what they preach. It is important for your employees to not label their managers as a hypocrite. Do not assume that your employees will always make ethical choices. It is important to trust your employees, but they may make unethical choices, and a manager should always be prepared for the worst. If a company is to be doing business internationally, then managers should really have a delicate approach to ethics because of the different cultures that a manager can encounter. Some different cultures can be offended easily, which could potentially ruin a business deal. Americans may not even know that they are doing something offensive, but it is important to research the country's culture that you are visiting and act accordingly. Now, in the end, let us summarize what we have learnt in this lecture. Corporate governance is concerned with ways of bringing the interests of investors and manager into line and ensuring that firms are run for the benefit of investors. A company's board of directors provides the company with direction and advice. The staffs of this department provide consultative services on a variety of city topics and ensure consistency in the management procedures and policies of the corporation. Consultants are independent contractors who are paid hourly, per day, or per project. Ethics in a business sense is defined by examining ethical principles and moral or ethical problems that arise in a business environment.